All right, hello. We are back with another episode of WWBTD with our lovely ladies from our original podcast series. We're starting back with a new year. We have here with us Joy, Shalonda, Ashley, and Jen, and I am Kate. Thank you for being with us today. So, to get us started, we're doing an icebreaker. Shalonda, what is your favorite French fry?
Ooh, that would have to be a curly fry from Good Times.
Mm.
Honestly, Good Times, Arby's, or Jack in the Box. Any curly fry.
Oh my gosh, yes, it's that seasoning on there. There's
Oh,
something very special about that. I agree.
yeah.
Jen, what about you?
I would have to say McDonald's French fries are my favorite, especially like I would dip them in a strawberry shake. That was my jam when I was pregnant. And I like the really soggy and salty ones. I don't know.
I wouldn't use that word as, to appetize anyone, but thank you for your honesty. Ashley.
I'm listening to Jen. And the McDonald's fries, she's right, because they're salty and soggy in that ice cream. Oh my goodness. I love Good Times fries. I like mine with vanilla.
Okay.
Vanilla ice cream. The Good Times fries, it's about what you dip it in. Because like Freddy's has a great sauce, Good Times has the best sauce. But McDonald's fries or Good Times. But when you wanted an ice cream, McDonald's fries are the best. I don't know. We're talking about food now, so I don't know.
Fair enough. Joy, what about you?
They stole all mine, but it has to be the Good Times with the dipping sauce for sure. When they're super, super hot.
Yes. I mean,
Yeah,
no
hot
cold
and fresh.
fries. Come on, we can all agree.
How about you, Kate? What's your favorite fast food fry?
Well, I learned about the Good Times wild fries, and I can't, nothing beats that. It's so good. It's so good. I need them salty. I need them crispy, hands down.
And it's a Colorado company.
Yes, support local. All right, so going into the school year, we all know it's remote for the time being. They keep pushing that date back and back and back. If you watched our other episodes, you know that as a team, the Behavior Barriers team, we are pretty serious about self-care, specifically radical self-care. So I want to go around and if everyone could say what are they doing to either continue their self-care practices or what would they like to adopt to continue to face the challenges that are ahead. Joy, would you like to get us started?
Sure. I've had to set some boundaries around electronics and just putting my phone down, turning it off for a couple of hours every night and just encouraging everybody else in my house to do that. I think that's going to be harder once we're more accountable for our time during the school year. But my goal is to turn my phone off for 1 hour every night.
Nice. That's a good one. Jen, what about you?
I created like a little schedule, like a daily reminder of ways to check my self-care. So like, for example, Monday is motivation Monday. So like I think about what's motivating me today. It could be a picture, it could be a flower, it could be the sunrise, it could be anything. And then I have like Tuesday, take it easy Tuesday, Wednesday's wellness Wednesday. I'll tell you all of them. Thursday's thankful Thursday. I give gratitude that day. Friday is family, I call Friday because it's time to spend quality time with my friends and family. Saturday would be my self-care Saturday, and Sundays are steady Sunday, how I take it easy.
That's awesome. You're keeping our self-care schedule fresh. I love it. And I think a few other team members have also adopted it. So thanks for sharing, Jen. Ashley, what about you?
Jen, I love that. What I've been doing recently is doing a lot of self-discovery to take care of myself. So I've been kind of going into, the deeper places of Ashley and figuring out what really makes me me and who is it that I really want to be. And in that, I found that in order to continue in that, I need to develop a balance because there's been days where I've like literally forgotten to eat, but I feel really good and I've done some good work, right? So I'd say continue in my self-discovery, but I also need to adopt some form of balance and figure out what that looks like.
Cool. Shalonda?
During this pandemic, I focused a lot on journaling and trying to increase my exercising or physical activity. One thing I think that I'm going to need to work on or look closely at going back into this new routine with kids going back to school and us working is the sleep. I think that our patterns in this house are just all off of whack. My kids are kind of falling asleep at weird times. And so sleep is definitely one that I think I'm going to have to focus more on for not just myself, but also my family.
Yeah, for sure. It's definitely been an adjustment because I have to say I was pretty on top of like my self-care over the summer. You know, it's exercising, journaling, meditating. That's like all the checks. And now that we got to be back at work at 8 a.m., I can't just like leisurely go about my morning and like go through these different tasks. So I totally feel you on kind of like that time management and trying to get all these things in that, make me feel the best I can be. So thanks everyone for sharing. It's no secret that where we're going and everything is uncertain right now. We get literally new information every day. I was checking my emails over the summer and I just, I don't have kids. And so those with kids, it's like, are my kids going to be at home with me? Am I going to get them ready for school? Are they safe? So I wanted to pose this to all of you here. How do you feel about our children's not starting in-person learning? Jen, what about you?
It's been hard. I mean, just like simple things like my little one's supposed to start kindergarten, and it's a really big year, big boy school. And the other day, I took him to the park and he saw the playground and was like asking me if he can go play in the playground. And he like ran to it, and it made me emotional because I hadn't even let him touch a playground in all this time. They've been closed. I thought about germs. I mean, I just like overly paranoid, and it just made me like tears come to my eyes because I just want them to have a normal experience, just like my experience in kindergarten. But that's it, really.
Ashley, what about you?
I don't know. I've had mixed emotions about it, similar to Jen, but on the flip side, this is my son's last year in elementary school. And so it's like, so you're not going to be able to experience that with your peers and be around them. But at the same time, because I personally eventually opted out of him doing in-person learning. At first, I'm like, nope, if you guys open it, he's going. And then I switched and I'm like, actually let him do remote learning the whole time. And there's just pros and cons to all of it. And what it came down to really was that paranoia, just me being afraid and all those what ifs that pop up. But I am kind of mourning for him. He doesn't know, but I'm mourning for him, that experience that I had, so that's what's coming up for me. Yeah.
That's it. Yep.
I have older kids. And something that my daughter said that, I don't know, for some reason it stopped me in my tracks because they were talking about going back like in pods. Or I'm not sure if that's the right word. And the only thing she was worried about was being scheduled at the same time as her friends. And she's a good student. And so I thought, oh, she's, going to be excited to see her teachers or excited to, but for older kids, especially, that's such a social age. I didn't realize how much she was missing that because she has siblings and I thought she's around other people, but yeah. So she was just hoping that it wasn't alphabetical because her best friends don't have names and are part of the alphabet. And now we're not going back at all. So, or, at least yet in person. So I'm bummed for the kids who are missing the social stuff because that's really, really important. And I wonder, like some of the kids that we work with as our team, with some social emotional needs, if they're going to be even further behind. But then I also had a thought, about the kiddos that we work with who are maybe finding more success.
Mm.
And I don't know that I've taken the time to celebrate that this might be a good time for them, the kids who are thriving under this remote system. So I'm going to try to think about them and try to remember that for all those times it was hard for them to be in a classroom, that maybe this is a time that they can grow and, you know, maybe catch up.
I like that perspective. Shalonda, anything to add?
All three of these ladies hit on every area that rises up in me. Joy, you just touched on something that I don't think anyone really touches on as far as the kids who are actually thriving because of remote learning. My son ending out the last of that year being at home, his grades probably wouldn't have been what they were.
Yay.
Some of the struggles, I know some of the struggles with just, and he gets supports, and that was a concern too, that maybe he would just fall further behind. But having me, someone who understands his learning style, not that they didn't, and being able to support him one-on-one, and just being able to, like, I actually knew what my son was learning because I had to really be connected to the teachers in a way through this Zoom thing that I didn't have before. Like, I barely could meet with them, but then it provided me opportunity where we actually were meeting more. I was able to get more direction on what he was doing. A lot of times my son wouldn't even come home with homework, and that was hard for me, because it's like, I need to know what you're learning and if you're even learning, and to just get his report card and see his grades sometimes, it's like, wait, what happened? You know what I mean? And you're getting all these supports, like, how does this happen? But I felt his confidence rise. This is definitely a hard decision because, yes, I care about my son's health, and sending him back is, to me, not an option in a sense. But then he's a social bunny, and he thrives off of, seeing his teachers, seeing his friends. And so it's one of those things, Ash, I started off like, hey, if we could do half and half, I'm with it, even though I was like more concerned about him catching corona. I was like, but look at all the things that he's, lagging and missing. He's not worried about it. He's like, Mom, I want to go back to school. Like, I just want to go back to school. And so I made the ultimate decision, though, that, the schools made the decision that we're doing remote for the first quarter. And so that's what we're going to do. And, I'm thinking, I'm leaning towards maybe letting him go to school, but I'm one of those people who still, I don't know. I'm just watching the trends, listening to the news, and hoping to learn more to help me make my decision. So I'm kind of a little scared, but hopeful, trying to stay hopeful.
I think that's fair, like what you're saying about, because this time has made me realize how big that social piece is. Like, even I'm thinking about him being on his game, and like, we used to have strict hours, like, this is when you can be on, you are not at this point or whatever. And now, because I know this is the only time that he can talk to his friends and really, it's like I had to really think about how are my son's needs being met socially. And so I think that, like, I think for most parents, that's one of the main reasons to even contemplate sending them back, if it's an option, is because we see now how important that social aspect is. So I think that's a fair consideration.
Yeah, I agree. I remember that was kind of when we were going into remote learning, our supervisor realized that about the video games. It's like, wait a minute, we're quarantined. This is literally the only time they're socializing.
That's what made me see it. I'm like, you're right.
It's hard though, because, our kids have so much screen time anyway, and it's like rare that they're getting outside, like when we were kids, running around and just getting into mischief, right? Everyone's just like behind a screen now. So I think there's that pull, like, I don't know, is this going to really, like, what's going to happen later on? Like, what are the impacts? But yeah, I don't know. It's definitely something to be aware of. Shalonda, like, I'm glad you shared, because your kid has been thriving in this environment, and it's often because, or from what I gathered, it's because you were able to be super involved and know what was going on. So I'm wondering, when we do because it will happen at some point when we do go back to in-person learning. How do you think, or what would you do to try and make that transition successful for your kid?
Well, Iman, he's a tricky little one, so you never know exactly what's going to work. But with Iman, like I said, he knows what he needs to do. And so just making sure he understands that we need to be wearing that mask, just the safety aspect is what I'm going to have to make sure he's just fine honing in on, because that's what's going to be important going back into those schools, is that you're making sure that you're keeping the sanitizing hand stuff with you. You're wearing the mask. You're just taking all the precautions mommy has been teaching you for the past 3-4 months. You need to just even more make sure that you're using those things, and just staying in prayer, because I don't know what else to do at this point other than practice that and just stay hopeful and in prayer that we're doing the right thing, sending them back into that environment. Yeah, that's pretty much where I'm sitting with it, is just making sure that safety part is just there and he understands what he needs to be doing.
Right. What about like academically, to keep that thriving?
Well, he reads throughout the summer. Like, we didn't stop reading. We definitely make sure that he's doing his reading 30 minutes, and then just making sure that, academically he's where he needs to be at this point. Like, he needs to be doing little math, little this, little that, just to get him back in the groove. And so, like I told him, sleep is something mommy's going to be bringing up within this next week. We're going to go going back to bed at a decent time. You're going to be giving mommy your phone, you know what I mean? And then, like I said, we're going to constantly just be working on a little bit of everything. We're going to be reading 30 minutes a day. We're going to be doing a little math, a little science, like just continuing to work with him on those little things that I know I can assist him with is what we have been doing, throughout the summer, because he's not able to get the summer schooling that he might have had, or, those things. So just as a parent, just making sure what I can help him with, whether it's just multiplication facts for an hour, or something like that, that's what we do anyway. So I think that's been kind of conditioning him. He hasn't completely got out of the school and the learning mindset, because he was already sort of behind, and I couldn't allow myself to just sit here and him play video games all day or, do nothing. So that's pretty much what he's been doing throughout the summer. And so I think that'll help keep him or prepare him from going back into this learning environment that's going to already be so different that, his mind is still going to be in the learning, process.
That's awesome. Good for you for being on top of that, man.
Hey, Kate, I have a thought about just some optimism about going back in remote learning versus March, when it just happened overnight. And I feel like we're going back with a plan, that teachers were asked to do the impossible and did it with no warning, with really, with no more warning. I mean, they certainly got some support, but so I think like everybody was using a different platform. This time it's all going to be more consistent. There's a schedule versus we didn't really know every school was doing it different, and now DPS has a plan. And it's maybe not a plan that everybody agrees with, but at least there's that consistency factor, which I think makes me a lot more optimistic about it being successful.
I'm excited that they're gonna. I think you're absolutely right, Joy, and I'm really excited that they're gonna be teaching, like live teaching, because that was probably like my biggest concern, because
Yes.
I was working on my computer. My son, thankfully, my older son, he's going to 4th grade this year. He is very independent, thankfully, and he was able to do all his work on his own. And I would just like follow up with him and help him with things along the way. But I was missing, and I know he was missing, that like connection with his teacher, like that live every day. They're teaching them the skills, and they teach them differently than the way I was taught. So I'm excited that there will be some time that they will get that live teaching. So that doesn't always fall on all of us too, that maybe we don't know. I don't remember half of the stuff he's learning. That shows, Are You Smarter Than Fifth Grader?
I'm not.
I am definitely not smarter than a 5th grader. When I taught, I would have to review everything before I taught it. Like I would have to remember, go back and study before I taught it to the kids, because you forget that stuff, even as a teacher. Yeah.
I think we're all lucky to have each other and the support and to have some skills in teaching, but I want to remind parents that we're not asking them to homeschool, we're just asking them to guide remote learning. It's still the teacher's jobs to teach. So like that homeschool word, I just feel like could be really a lot of pressure for some parents. So the teachers are still teaching, we're just guiding remote learning.
And you know what, Joy, I'm happy you said that, because for me, that was like a huge part of it that it felt like a weight, because it felt like there was so much pressure. Like, no, I have to teach him this. I have to, and it felt like a lot of pressure. And one thing that I'm doing to kind of relieve that pressure from me, and also remind myself how to teach my son how to fall in love with learning. We're about to start a project, and so we're basically like studying the life of Tupac, because he likes Tupac. He has an old soul, and so we'll be kind of going through like the different phases of him, and the different like what he stood for in one at one time as opposed to what he stood for at another time, and where that change may have came from. And so I got we're gonna read his book, his poetry, and watch some documentaries and go through it in a way that is, because he did project-based learning at school. And so it's so me falling in love with the learning with him, just because that homeschool piece, when it felt like A, B, C, check, was too rough for me. And because I know everyone doesn't always have the time to do that, but because I do think I can figure out how to make that time to do that, I really want us to fall in love with learning, because doing this from home has been really, really hard, and it's felt like a job. And I just need that aspect taken out for me and for him, so it's not so overwhelming. And so that's what we're going to start doing.
That sounds so cool. Can I come over and help?
Please, girl, please come.
I love that you said that. And I mean, and it's true. You do kind of have to have the time, but I have so many fond memories of, my dad working on art projects with me, and we'd make some really cool stuff. Like, remember those shoebox projects?
Yes.
We were like, we'd pour like glue over it to make like a waterfall, and it would dry. And I'm like all excited with my shoebox diorama, So I don't know. I think that's a great mindset to have. And honestly, I could relearn all that stuff, because as Jen said, I forgot all of it. I really don't. I don't remember all the moon phases. I don't know what that is. I remember even just having my little brother coming home and be like, I learned all this. And I'm like, I'm not familiar with that information. Thank you for teaching me something. So
what haunts me, and I don't know why this equation just stays in my head, because I feel like I had to learn it in school multiple times, in college. Y equals mx plus b. I don't know why that one particular one, I'm like, oh, when he gets there, I'm doomed. I'm doomed.
That was me with fractions, girl. I was like, I did everything, and as soon as we got off those chapters, I was okay. I probably never got fractions down really, until I was an adult helping my son did I really understand fractions.
Yeah, just to get by. That's what so much
just to get by.
I'm like, just remember it for the test. You don't.
Right. That's it.
Little do you know, it's no, learn math now so you can teach your kids later.
Exactly.
That's exactly what I tell my son. Do you see your mom? This is why you have to know these things. But everything won't stick, and you will have to go back and relearn some things.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Gosh.
Mommy doesn't know everything. That was a good lesson to teach him. Mommy doesn't know everything. I have to learn things too. So we're going to do this together. So
Right.
That's
What
the
if-
interesting part about it.
I was just thinking, what if the silver lining in this is that we're more connected to our kids and their education because we're sitting next to them, looking at screens, or
There's a lot of
they're learning in our homes and in their homes. And I hope that that's the silver lining I'm going to try and embrace that.
And one thing also, just to tie into that real quick, I don't know if it's going to be a segue or not, but it's just the fact that, you know, there was a lot of distractions and things that interfere with my son being able to get his learning 100%. And I knew what he was capable of. And when I had him at home doing remote learning, I got to see, and he was able to demonstrate that without the judgment, without the teacher here and there who just wasn't giving him a fair chance, or, you know, relating back to that color thing, you know, and just being a number. I think this just helped him see his grades could be something totally different. It helped boost my confidence as a parent, because I'm like, I know my baby can do it. You know what I mean? And to see him do it, and just to have that extra support and someone constantly in his ear boosting him, because he hated, honestly, being in front of the screen. He was complaining, I get a headache, you know, like it was always something. But at the end of the day, he was able to pull it off. We were able to pull it off. And so there's a lot of positive things I thank God for with remote learning too in this pandemic.
Shalonda, that gives me chills. Yay.
It is. I have positives about this pandemic in my personal life, honestly.
Yeah.
Same.
For all, I mean, this was a first time for all of us. But I really like that, you know, a few of us were able to highlight some of the positives, because honestly, I think we're all very quick to nitpick all the negatives, because everything was so uncertain, and we had to learn really quickly. Yeah, so I hope that this, you know, the summertime going into a new year, although we don't have all the answers, this was hopefully a time for people to get reconnected with their kids and maybe discover that love of learning again. But I want to close out and on this episode and just remind everyone that, you know, we are in this together. We are connected through this pandemic. No matter no matter how old you are, no matter if you have kids, the color of your skin, we're all going through this. We're all humans, and we are going to get through this together. Keep an open mindset. Take care of yourselves. Thank you, Joy, Shalonda, Ashley, and Jen for being with us today. We'll see you next time.
Thanks, Kate.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye, guys.